Welcome, everyone. My name is Christian Sorensen. I'm the Deputy Committee Person for the Democratic Party of Evanston. This video is for the special election in the second ward coming up. We're going to have an endorsement vote as a body, and it'll go from February 19th to February 26th online. And you can vote, after watching these videos. And then on the 26th, we're looking to hold just an informal mixer where everybody can get together. Obviously, the pool of people that are interested in municipal elections are dedicated, thoughtful people that we want to, have everybody get to know each other. So we'll get out information and details about that as it gets forward. We have with us tonight, incumbent Alderwoman Krissie Harris. Alderwoman Harris, would you like to take 90 seconds to introduce yourself to our Democratic Party of Evanston members?
All right. Thank you so much. My name is Krissie Harris. I have been born and raised in Evanston. This is my hometown. This is my community. I participate in many things in Evanston. I used to be on the rec board. I was on Family Focus board, YWCA board. My family is the first Black African-American family to create an Evanston Community Foundation grant in my father's name, Joe Butch Martin. I've been on Evanston Discipline Board. So I do a lot of things in Evanston, been doing it for a long time. That's how I was raised, action-oriented. So welcome to this evening, and hopefully you get to know me a little more later. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so this first set of questions are connected. So but you'll get the pace here. And again, if you have if you need to go back and cover something, please let me know. So how well do you feel the city of Evanston has upheld its goal of assessing decisions and policies through a lens of equity?
Assessing decisions, I'm sorry.
And policies, yep, through a lens of equity.
So how well, I think that's a rolling stone. Being new to the council, I've been there 5 months, and came into a huge storm. There was a report written from the Black employees of Evanston that outlined specifically and clearly outlined the issues that they were facing. And that's a problem. But also, we had just finished our Baker Tilly report that talked about we weren't paying people appropriately, and then we also had our lakefront. So we have some issues in the city. I don't think Evanston is unique to problems running a municipality, but I think that there are problems. It seems as if a lot of the people who were not maybe responsible, but who didn't clear up the issues are gone, and we're looking at new staff, we're looking at new administration, and we're trying to hold them accountable. I know I am part of the administration, I guess would be the title, for the Black Evanston employees, and we're looking at all three reports that were given. We're not looking at just one of the reports, we're looking at all three. My belief is if we are working on one community, if we do it right, it will fold out and help all communities. So there are issues, there are national issues. I think COVID showed us a lot of our weaknesses throughout the world, mental health, equity. So I think while we have goals, we are still going towards our goals. We should never really fully reach a goal, because then that means you're being static. So we should always, once we reach a goal, change that goal to what else can we be doing better? What else can we be working on? Do we have problems? It would be ridiculous for me to say, no, we don't. We do. We're human. It's a city run by people who come with their own bias and issues. And we have to work at setting systems that not only break those down, but help people evaluate. Why do I think that way? What experience did I have? Because it should be a teaching moment.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Several years ago, Evanston became the first city in the nation to pass reparations. The program has recently been criticized for the slow pace of the payouts. How do you feel this program can be improved?
I think how can it be improved? So first of all, it's awesome that we're first. Evanston is a city of a lot of firsts, and I think that's good. But also with being the first comes learning stumbles. You want to be out there, you want to do it, but then as you're rolling and implementing anything, you run into problems. There's no implementation of anything that just goes smoothly the first time. IT, you always have snafus. Running out of curriculum, I work in education, you're going to have issues that you learn as you go. So we do have problems, and one of the biggest problems was the payout because we counted on revenue from our cannabis sales. We then went into a major lockdown of COVID where revenue of anything really decreased because people weren't out. We weren't sure what this pandemic was, and so people weren't out as much. The cannabis sales didn't generate the funding that we thought that they did. So we have to look at that. I have some people that I'm trying to vet, come to Evanston and start a cannabis business. We've also looked at different ways. I'm going to say it wrong because I'm new to some of the terminology with the city, but we do have a tax. We did get some tax money from real estate sales that will help fund the payout of these funds. So we're working on that. We're still learning. We're trying to figure that out. Again, when you're the first at something, there's roadblocks. And even if you're second or third, there's things that you didn't anticipate. There's things you didn't think about. These are valid concerns that people have. We are working diligently at trying to have a system where everybody who's eligible will receive what we said we try to give them. But if we don't have it, we can't give you something we don't have. We also understand, unfortunately, that this demographic is elderly, and we've lost quite a few people because of age or illness, and we haven't been able to pay them. We did tweak that system where now if they have a will, we can pay that to the will. People who are on the list that have not been compensated yet, they've been given paperwork where they can add a will or add it to their estate. But you didn't think about that when it happened. You don't think about transition, even though that's a natural part of life. So we're working at it. We're open to it. I know it receives a lot of criticism. What I encourage people is to give us suggestions of how to make this better. That's what I'm always about. How do we make it better? Not just you hate it, but give me some suggestions. And even if your suggestion isn't perfect, we might be able to tweak it and make it work for the residents that we promise this. So I think it's a great program. There's other programs out there. There was one where they mentioned $5 million. I want to see that pass. I want to see the residents vote for that because that'll give us some impetus to change what we're doing. So I respect and welcome the criticism because that helps you understand how to do things better.
Wonderful. In November, a letter was published by a group of city employees that highlighted systemic racism and discrimination in the city government. What are you doing to address the issue?
Yeah. So that is part of the work that I do at Oakton Community College. I am the manager of the Student Life and Campus Inclusion, which deals with equity, diversity, and inclusion. I was asked by this group, and I don't know if flattered is the right, maybe honored to be part of the group. And I think part of that was because of the work that I've done at Oakton Community College, but also that I was a new person on the council. So I wasn't directly responsible for allowing these things to have happened. I didn't have a voice at that time. So I think it was twofold, being new and the work that I have done for a living. I'm always pushing the envelope and asking the questions, how did we get like this? What happened? Again, a lot of those key players are gone. But how do we make it right? And I've been very transparent. I'm here to open. Everybody on that committee was given my cell phone number. If you have issues, you call me, and not my city phone number, my personal phone number. You call me, and we're going to work this out because equity, diversity, and inclusion is very important. Um, so I'm in there fighting the fight while I sit on both sides of the issue because I am an African American woman. So this is a national, this is a global issue. It isn't, again, while Evanston likes to be unique, we're not unique to this problem. And I think in 2020, again, with COVID and some of the election things happening nationally, we got to expose some things that we didn't pay attention to, that we took for granted, but weren't acceptable. And Evanston is now a little more stable with our administration. City Manager Stowe is committed to this. I'm committed to making him committed to it, and pushing the envelope. And what does this look like? It's not a quick fix. I've always said this is a marathon. People like to say they're woke. Woke is static. You want to be awake because that's an ongoing, perpetual thing, being awake, not just this one time I'm woke. So working and staying in there, regardless of how the election turns out. I've told this committee that I'm committed to staying if the city will have me. I'm going to stay in there and hold everybody accountable. And that means looking at policies, procedures. Sometimes you have systemic policies that you didn't even think about that are based in isms. And it isn't just racism, but all of the isms. So looking at those, hiring outside agencies, because trust has been one of the issues that people have talked about. They don't trust the system inside. So who do we need to hire? How do we do that? Some of the changes that will need to be made are budget related. We have to be able to roll that out. We just passed our budget, no increases in taxes. We can't go back and tell the community, oh, wait a minute. So how do we do that with the equity lens? Where do we find that money? Where do we, again, make our systems? If our systems are rooted in equity, then everything else folds out. It makes sense. You're paying attention to the things that don't make sense. They're standing out and you're catching them before they harm people. And that's the biggest issue. You don't want to create harm in the changes that you make. So you have to be able to pay attention, because if we tweak this, does that harm somebody else? Does that disenfranchise somebody else because we do this? There were places where inequity was called out and it wasn't an inequitable, that's a hard word, inequitable process. We needed to be transparent about why the process looked like this. It felt inequitable because, for example, drug testing, it felt inequitable. So I asked City Manager Stowe, go to the company, because we don't do it in home, go to the company and let's find out their matrix. How does one person keep getting called multiple times for a random test? Well, we know how that happens because I get called for jury duty every 2 years. And I know there's enough Americans here to do jury duty besides me having to go every 2 years. But let's get that information and then share it with the whole employee group so that they understand that this is a company, this is how they do it. We've asked, is there ways that you can monitor that? Because again, while it's an outside company, they may be based in systemic issues, right? Are they paying attention to how they set their systems up? So do we take names out of it and it's just a number, so that in case there are some nuances that pick up names that maybe are unique, and test them more often? So we're having that conversation with the company. And if we don't get a satisfactory answer, we might look at getting a new company. So, but again, you're looking at centuries of systemic issues. And so it feels Evanston is doing it, but there's also external factors out there that we have to say, we're not going to do business with this company if their systems don't match up with our values, and making sure our values, people don't remember what you say, they remember what you do. So,
Yeah, thank you. That letter also included an action plan for the city. Which of those recommended action items would you like to see implemented? And which, if any, do you disagree with?
I think, and just so people know, I'm looking down because I'm writing and making sure I keep track. Um, I think I agree with all of it. I think, again, in my earlier statement, if we fix this, we're fixing a lot more than people could ever imagine. Um, we did have to, so we meet on a biweekly basis with this group and we meet together. There is no hierarchy, right? Of we're telling you or you're telling us. It's what can we meet together and how do we fix this? What I have pushed back is on some of the timelines. Everybody wants to get the equity and pay. That sounds easy, but that could be and would be millions of dollars that we didn't budget for. We have to figure that out. And that's not saying that it won't happen, but how do we do that? And that creates, and recognizing that you still have to create a process in which to do that. You can't just say, up, oh, you're $10,000, yes, we're going to give you 10,000. You need to make sure what you're doing, again, is equitable because it creates a chain effect. And so are our processes in place? Do we have procedures in place? I come from an educational background. Do we have rubrics that can then, that, and I've said that rubrics or I can't remember the other words because I use rubric all the time, but that we can speak to that clearly whenever anybody asks a question, we can go back to this rubric and say, this is how it panned out. This is why this person got a job or got a raise. This is why they didn't. These numbers didn't add up. And it's clear, it's concise. So a lot of things are predicated on something else and making sure, again, that we don't just jump into the fire, that we make sure it's clear, that it's equitable, that it's something we can live with. I don't want to every year have to make changes because we didn't think about things, even though that does sometimes happen. So I don't think I disagree with anything. I did push back on some of the time frames that we can't give everybody raises in 30 days. And I'm just using that as an example. We can't, they asked for people to be fired. We still have to do due diligence on that. We can't just do things. We need to make sure that the equity lens that we've been asked to use, we use across the board. And get understanding. And when there were things I didn't understand, I asked city manager, look, what is this? We have nepotism. What is that about? And he explained it to me in a way that made sense. Somebody was hired. Their mom got hired in a different area. Then they got a raise and became the boss of the person. Did they directly supervise this person? No. But we still have to have things in place to make sure, do we change the person to a different department so that there isn't you don't even want the image of impropriety for me. I don't want people to even assume like that looks wrong. No, it's on the up and up and we can explain it away, but we got some issues and we got to fix them.
All right, thanks. All right. Despite the number of new residential units constructed in Evanston over the last few years, especially in high-rise developments approved by the City Council, housing costs in Evanston continue to rise. Do you feel that the inclusionary housing ordinance is doing enough to combat this? And what solutions would you like to see implemented?
This is hard. I keep going back to this beast of COVID. But many people, it's not unique to Evanston, though we live in Evanston. I always want people to have a broader lens of this is a national issue, that housing is very expensive. It's skyrocketed. Unfortunately, a lot of people lost their homes, couldn't get into places. Housing wasn't meeting their needs that they could afford. So you had a family of four living in a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom because that's all they could afford. So it's a national issue. It's an issue that is pervasive in Evanston because we're landlocked. We cannot, unless we decide to build out on Lake Michigan, and that might be a cool thing to do. We're landlocked. Our, our, our land is what it is, and we have to figure this out. We are looking at, and I wasn't the creator of this, but as a council, we're looking at changing zoning. There's certain places that don't have housing that's appropriate, that would allow people to maybe be included in this part of town. So we are looking at, what is our zoning saying, and are we living up to the values that we have for housing and equity? Well, you can't overburden certain communities with housing. How do we get everybody to take responsibility for the housing needs that we have? Are we meeting our goals? Probably not. But again, some of that has to do with where we are, the availability. I want to look at how do we get more people in and less people and less units having the option of paying the fine, right? No, we need the space, not the money. While it's about the money, we don't want the fine. We don't want to collect the fine. We want to house people. We want to house people with dignity and respect and space to be able to prosper. Because if we do that, we're creating better citizens who feed back into Evanston financially, socially, economically. So worldwide, we could do a much better job.
Yeah. Even though it's not in the second ward, there's been contentious discussion around the use of the Margarita Inn as a residence for unhoused individuals. What do you feel could be done to assuage the concerns of local residents while still providing service to our city's most vulnerable population?
Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much I can say. We have an injunction right now, and I don't want to be here and then the people come take me away. That won't look good on the video. But I think hearing concerns. I think what's most important is allowing people to be able to express their concerns without judgment. We don't always say the right thing or things the right way. That doesn't mean the validity of what they're saying isn't right. So I think without judgment, we have to hear what people are saying. I think one of the things that I've always talked about is, while we're second ward, we're really one city. We're separated by air. So what happens there affects everyone. How do we do that? How do we hear our neighbors who are concerned? I've had meetings with residents who felt like they weren't heard. I came and I took a tour of the Margarita Inn because I wanted to understand it. I believe my position as an alder person has taken me to what I call the land of Oz. So as a resident, I understood things from one side. And then as I got on the council, there is really another side and understanding of the city of Evanston. Evanston has a couple different sides to it. So I've taken a tour of the Margarita Inn. I've talked to the residents who didn't feel that they liked the way things were rolled out. I never heard anybody say, not in my backyard. I've heard them say, I don't like this aspect of it, or I don't like this aspect, and this brings me concern. They have valid concerns, whether they are, or they have appropriate concerns. I'm never going to judge the question. I'll judge how you ask the question, but not the question itself. You have a right to ask questions, and we have to get you the answers, because I think that will help people better understand and assess their fears, concerns, or trepidations. I get probably 50 emails a day on a mixture of for and against, and allowing people to have their say without judgment is what I think is important. And meeting, I won't say in the middle, because life isn't like that. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 90-10, sometimes it's 60-40. But finding a place where everyone can feel good about the work that we're doing and help disenfranchise people, because housing is an issue. Um, and it's a burden on not just that community, but the people who are unhomed. It's incredible, again, the weaknesses that COVID has shown us. Uh, so,
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Okay, the Inflation Reduction Act, signed into law by President Biden, includes grants for helping low income citizens get environmental upgrades to housing. This includes some vital infrastructure improvements like lead pipe abatement and environmental upgrades like solar panel installation. Unfortunately, not many people know that these are available to them. What can the city do to help citizens access these benefits?
I think information, again, getting it out. Um, I know about it because it hits my desk, my proverbial desk. We don't have a desk, but my proverbial. I think getting the word out. We have it posted on the websites, but not everybody uses that. And we have to use an equity lens of maybe mailing, which our CARP people will have a fit with, because we're using paper, we're mailing things. But you have different types of ways people access the information. We have people with disabilities who may be blind and can't read or can't do it on the computer. So we have to find a variety of ways to push the information out. I don't know what that is, but I'm all about getting the word out to people through the different channels in which they receive information, not how I know how to get it to them, but asking the questions to the different maybe agencies that work with people. How do you get your information out? Is that through mailers? Is that through robocalls? Is that through putting information on doors? Then we can maybe hire our teen and youth for summer to get information out, putting information on doors, putting information on cars, asking businesses to put this information. Do we have TV commercials? I think there's a variety of ways. I don't think there's one correct way to get the information out. Asking our CARP constituents to help push the word out, and I know that they would be willing to do that because they're for this. So I think using all the means that we have possible to get the word out. Texting, they have those things where you get a robo text, a robocall.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Um, Next question's in two parts. First part, do you feel overall that expenditures by the city of Evanston over the last 4 years have appropriately reflected the priorities, needs, and interests of Evanston residents?
So this is an interesting question. Not interesting. I chuckle because, as I mentioned before, I get on average, I'd say 50 to 100 emails a day. And the loudest people think all 100 emails are in favor of what they're saying. And they're not. They're across the board. They're not even as polar as people think. There's some gray areas, like, I think you're doing this right, but I'd be willing to give this up. So seeing what I see and knowing some of the, again, behind the Wizard of Oz curtain things, yes. Can we do better? Most definitely. Prices have increased across the border on everything. Eggs are, I think, $6 a carton right now. So sometimes we end up paying more. The bidding system allows us to get and take the lowest bid, but sometimes you get what you pay for. And we have to be honest about that. And then we have to go back and do something again because we took the lowest bid. And people are upset about that. But we had to take the lowest bid, right? So I think for the most part, yes, we're doing things right. Have we messed up? Not messed up, but have we made some bad calls or didn't get the best that we thought we would? Most definitely. Most definitely. That's why there is a difference in Saks Fifth Avenue, Walmart, Kmart, right? Sometimes the quality, you have to pay more to get a good quality product. So I think we're doing good. The needs, we're spending a lot of money putting people in hotels that are under home fire victims right now. We have a bunch of people in hotels that we're paying for and giving them gift cards to be able to purchase clothing, food, items that they lost in fire. We're top notch when it comes to social service that we give our residents. I actually want to see us not dial that in, but Evanston, what I've seen on the outside, we're very boutique and we have a lot of people that do the same things and we're very repetitive. And what I'd love to see us do is get all of those groups together. How do we do this appropriately but concisely and not keep refunding things? And we'd be able to reach a broader group of people, because people, what I say is people who know how to use the system, and not in a negative way, but people who know the system, use the system. That does not account for the people who don't know the system, don't know how to navigate the system, and aren't getting the services that they need. There's a huge population out there that are unserved because they don't know how to ask for help. They don't know where to go to help. So I just want to figure out how to streamline, and not all of that is city-owned services, but how do we put all these services for food insecurity? How do we get everybody in the room and say, you take care of canned goods, you take care of produce, you take care of meat, instead of everybody doing the same thing? I think our dollar would go further. I think we could reach more people, and then we could spend time finding, because you got to go to people. You can't wait to say, oh, you come to me if you need help. We've got to go to them and say, hey, let me help you navigate the system.
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me. The Evanston City Council has allocated $3 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds to be dispersed through a participatory budgeting process. How do you feel the process has gone so far, and what can the city do to get more people involved in this process?
So I think it's an awesome system. We were going to do it in the second ward when I came on, and the city had a bigger plan where, and I should have said this in the other question, so can I back up just a second? Evanston, the city of Evanston gets 17 cents per dollar, and a lot of people don't understand that. They think we get the full 100 pennies. And the way that I explained to my residents in the second ward is we get 17 pennies of that dollar. It goes to 65202 Cook County, the library, Oakton Community College, and some other places. So that dollar is split amongst a lot of different entities. So we were going to, in my ward, I was going to make different cans where everybody could use their 17 pennies and put them wherever they wanted. That's pretty much what this participatory budgeting program has been. I've attended 3 or 4 of them, fully packed. I think they've done a great job of rolling it out. They've, excuse me, they've reached out to very specific communities, the AAPI community, the African American community. They had a senior night, and I think something happened with the bus. So I don't think as many seniors were there as they thought would be or wanted to be there, but something happened with the bus of transportation. I think it was a night that was like 3 below and something went wrong. So we didn't want our seniors out anyway. I think getting more people involved, I'm not sure. I saw it everywhere. And the reality is, and I don't think it's a hard reality, it's just not everybody's interested. It's so many people that aren't interested in government, and they give their money and they say, we trust that you're doing the right thing. We're not trying to micromanage, or we just give it and hope that it does well. I would compare it to tithing, that once you tithe, you have to let the money go and hope that it's done right because you've done your part. So I think there's a lot of citizens like that believe I'm paying my 17 cents, they're doing it right, and when they aren't, I'll step up. Um, but we've had, and oh, they did a high school and a Northwestern. So I think they've done a great job. When we went, when I went, but when the other people went, you could not participate. You could only listen, which I appreciated that as well, that I couldn't make any influence, not that I had any, but I could hear things and I could let residents know, oh, we have that. A lot of times we don't know this. I was like, oh, we already do that. And I would tell them later, like, we already do that. And here's where you go to do that. And they're like, oh, we didn't know. And I'm like, yeah, we do that. We do that. I don't know why I started whispering. Sorry. But yeah, so being able to be in the room with people and hear some really creative thoughts that even if they don't use the 3 million that we could potentially use or do already, it was great. I think they do a great job.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Even before the pandemic, it seemed as though downtown Evanston was full of empty storefronts. What do you believe can be done to promote development in a way that prioritizes small businesses and local ownership?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, unfortunately, and when I say these things, I'm not absolving Evanston of our responsibility. But boutique industry is going away because you're able to do that online. You're able to do the Amazons. You're able to do the Walmarts. We become a society of convenience. I don't have to go look. I can scroll through, look at pictures, try to figure out, is it run true to size, and push a button and get it delivered to me. I don't have to park. I don't have to look. I don't have to dig through the racks of clothing for food or any of that. So I think some of our small boutique areas were going away. They were going to have to charge more to be competitive with these big box agencies that get it at bulk and can charge rates that are, affordable. No judgment there because people have to shop where they can afford to. I think what we have to do as a city is create incentives, not over regulate what cities do, but hold true to our city concerns and values. So I know, like right now, we're talking about the bag tax. Well, that's in my opinion, a competing priority with CARP goals. Well, you don't want bags, you don't want to pollute the area, but we don't want to overtax our businesses who then push that cost off to the residents or the purchaser. So how do we find a middle that meets all of our needs? And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to take a hard line and say no to this. I did vote against the bag tax right now because we're still in a COVID space where our businesses are trying to be successess,ful, and I want them to be able to do that. I'm not voting no forever. I'm voting no because right now it makes sense to vote no, that our businesses need the opportunity to be successful, to grow, to please our residents. I don't want our residents to go shopping with NECA. I don't want them to shop in Chicago. I want them to shop in Evanston. So, but again, I'll be very transparent. That isn't a forever no. That's just right now allowing our businesses to get and do better. And I think they want to. I don't think the standard that we set in Evanston is that of poor quality. I don't think anybody just wants to give some substandard product or anything. We want to do well, but competing priorities on how do I sell this at a good price that people will buy is the question. So we're working on that. In the second ward, we have some fantastic new businesses coming. I'm a little worried about them because I love Buffalo Wild Wings and it's in walking distance. That's not good for me. I'll be there every Tuesday and Thursday for their specials. But we have some really good businesses coming to the second ward. Second ward is our most economically diverse area. So I'm excited about the growth that I see there.
Wonderful. All right, last question is two big parts. Northwestern is a big part of the Evanston community. How would you make sure the city's relationship with the university adds value to the lives of your constituents?
You said it's two parts? I didn't get
Yeah,
adds.
that's the first part. Yep.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
I was like, I didn't hear two questions. Adds value. I think, again, that's relationship building. They have a new president who I think is open to change. I've seen him say that, like, I'm hearing this. And I think I'm not a graduate of Northwestern University, but I have family members. They die hard Northwestern. I'm die hard Illinois State University. But I think that's relationship. Town gown, again, is not unique to Evanston and Northwestern. When I was away at school, we had issues with Bloomington Normal and Illinois State. And how do you navigate that? With constructive and real discussions, with real needs assessment. What do we need as a city? What does Northwestern need from us? It has to be a give-take relationship. I don't think we just can demand of Northwestern. They had great lawyers that signed into play a couple hundred years ago. They didn't have to pay taxes, and now we're stuck with that. I don't see Northwestern just being a tyrant of, no, we're not going to do anything. They have done things. I think they need to better communicate the things that they've done for us as a city. We just got a new fire truck that was $800,000 that is helping the community, or will help the community when we have issues, which for some reason we're having a lot of fires. And I sent an email like, what's going on, to understand that. But I think really having serious discussions from a city, from a university standpoint on how can we better accommodate each other. What does that mean? What does that look like? How do we do that? How do we promote that on both sides? How does the city promote our needs? And how does Northwestern promote their needs or what they're doing on both sides? Because we need each other. At the end of the day, we need each other. We have to be honest about that. And everybody has to do, I won't say fair share, because again, is that 50-50? Is that sometimes 90-10? Is that 60-40, 70-30? I think we have to be flexible with that. And I know people don't like to hear that, but it's really important in any relationship that people carry the burden that they can when they can, and then know that when it's their turn to be at 30%, that their counterpart has that 70. So,
Yeah. And last bit, Northwestern is planning on rebuilding their football stadium. Are you in favor of the plan they have submitted? If not, what changes would you like to see them make? And how would you get them to change their plan?
So I don't know that I'm in favor or against it, because I represent the community. And of those 50 to 100 emails, I guarantee 25 are about the stadium. And it isn't, again, overwhelming. No, it's, I will say overwhelming. We want these adjustments. So it isn't just a hard no. I think I've only had 3 no, never, we hate it. I've had, we don't like this portion of it, or we don't like this aspect, or this and that. So trying to navigate that with 7th Ward residents, I think, have the priority, but not the only say. And it directly affects them, but it will directly impact the city as a whole. So listening to my 2nd Ward residents with the lens of trying to follow the 7th Ward alderperson, right? She's doing the hard work, the heavy lifting of calling for studies, really talking to her residents, really talking to the university. Like, I'm really impressed by what Councilmember Ravel is doing, because it's a heavy lift. And I don't envy her that she's in the 7th Ward, but I want to support her, her knowledge, being the newest council person. I need to defer to my other counsel who've already spent 2.5 years on the dais hearing these concerns, understanding the needs on a higher level. Not that I don't get it, but there's some things that have passed that are done that this would affect. So I want it to be done right. Everything I lean on is we've got to do it right. That's the premise of anything that you do. That doesn't mean everybody will like it, but we want to do respectable work where a resident can say, we didn't like that, but we get why you did it, right? Kind of working with your 3-year-old. I don't like that I have to eat vegetables, but in 20 years they'll get it. So just trying to do the right thing. It comes with ADA accommodations that they don't have because we weren't thinking about that in the past. So we have to do that to make sure that we have a town where anyone can enjoy a game and not be excluded because of a disability or any of those things. So I have not drawn a line on yes or no. I'm listening. I'm asking questions. I want to believe Northwestern is amenable to doing this right as well. I know they want to do it right. I'm not even going to say I'm assuming. I know they want to do the right thing. They have a business. So they, again, as we talked about, small businesses are looking at what does that look like? What does that mean? How can we adjust this and keep the integrity of our institution? They've made adjustments already. I think if once we get a study done, they will be more open to hearing what may come of that. But I don't want residents to be upset if the study doesn't go the way we think it should, right? We're hiring impartial people who will do a study of this totality. Some of the names they gave us have never done this type of work. And this isn't something you want somebody who hasn't done this scope of work to do. We're getting new people because of the agency we were looking at made some mistakes. And so now we've got to go back to the drawing board. Again, humans that make mistakes, but we have to make sure if we find that they don't align with what we do, that we have to adjust. So I'm looking at an agency that does this type of work. I want everybody to be nimble enough to say, we don't like this, but we'll give and take and negotiate in very good faith. That's important.
Well, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much, Alderperson Harris. We truly appreciate it. Again, we'll post the video.
Okay.
Neil will go edit. We'll get it all posted, and it'll be viewable all week next week.
Okay.
DPUE members will be able to vote in the endorsements. I don't believe we're doing live releases this time, but so you'll have to wait till Saturday. We'll post it all at once, and then we'll have it'll be just a mixer. Again, no need to prepare a stump speech or anything like that. Just the idea, people are interested in municipal government and municipal election should get to know each other. Make sure that they're networked because everyone in the room, win, lose, or draw, cares about Evanston. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah. So we should support whoever wins. At the end of the day, we need to support them because unless we're leaving the city, we're still Evanston residents.
Exactly. But so thank you so much for your time. And we'll get this posted very shortly.